All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dow. I got something that may be shocking to many of you out there, but it's not shocking to those of us who are informed about the system. And that's what I try to do. I try to inform us the way that things really, truly work, so that when you go into this system or you have to deal with this system, that you can be able to keep your mind, keep your emotions in check, because you have to understand everything in this country right here. They have a way of saying you signed up, you signed, you did as you did, and you didn't at any time have all the terms to the contract disclosed to you, because it was meant to snare you in deception. And so when you function after a normal, rational mind, that you believe things the way you believe things should, and it doesn't work that way, the first thing you start doing is getting all emotional and acting crazy and stuff. And of course, that's how the system sees it. I think you're acting just sound and rational, but hey, that's just the way it is. But look at this. Listen to this shocking story right here, okay? Son in coma. All right. Mother shocked to find she had little say in his medical care. Now, I want y'all to listen to me very closely as we read this article right here, okay? Imagine your 18-year-old son is critically injured and in a coma. You would be able to step in, or you would be able to step in and make medical decisions for him, right? They're asking a question. One mother found out that the answer was no. Now she wants others. Now she wants to warn others about her struggle. Ray Stone says her son, Forrest, had just turned 18 and was still in high school when a snowboarding accident sent him to a hospital in critical condition. He was hooked up to a ventilator and an intensive care unit. They took essentially the front third of his skull off so that the brain could swell without causing further damage, said Stone, who lives in Plains, Virginia. They told us we should prepare for him to not wake up from his coma. I'm like, how do you prepare for that? All right, legally, Stone's son was an adult under HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. His medical issues were none of his parents' business, even if he was still on their insurance. In cases like that, when a child can't speak for himself, a care provider can make the medical decisions in what is known as implied consent. In Stone's son's case, doctors were deemed to be his care providers. All right. Her son lay in a coma. Stone hired an attorney and appeared in court for what she describes as a mini trial to get legal guardianship to make medical decisions for her son. Wow. I mean, you're thinking, in this system right here, I'm going to stop this just for a second and try to inform us of something. You see, we think, and we are conditioned in this world, that when you have a baby, when we have a baby, we say it is my baby. And that's the way the natural order of things work. We say that is my child. All right. Until something happens like this, and you figure out real quick, fast, in a hurry, especially if they're 17 and under, that while you may have had a child, it is not your child. And many of you might be saying, especially if you're not used to listening to me, you might be saying, Pastor, what are you talking about? Yeah, your children, or at least what you believe to be your children. They're not yours. They do not belong to you. You know, wait a minute, Pastor Dow. Yeah, it is. My husband, my wife, we had sex. And we produced a baby. We gave the child our name. It's our child. Yeah, in your mind and in your conscience, you believe it's yours. But the truth is, the university of the painful truth is this. That's why you cannot afford to contract with any government agency, be it state, local, or federal. You cannot, because you work after a certain mindset, which is natural law. They work out another mindset, corporate fiat law, called statutory law. You see, when you have a child, if you went and got a state marriage license, and then you have a birth certificate that comes from the hospital and you signed it, you have just given jurisdiction over to the state for what you think is your children, because now they're the state's children. You know the reason why they're the state children? Because you went and got permission to get married. I call it high-priced prostitution, personally, myself. You may disagree. But, yeah, any fruit, children, that comes from this union, your children belongs to the state. And I even in this video, I have to stop saying your children, even though you believe it in your mind. What I need to start saying, the state children who allow you to babysit for them, their children. They give you the expense, the pleasure, and the joy, and sometimes heartache of raising their children. And of course, you're like, no, wait a minute. I don't care what nobody says. But when you signed that marriage license, regardless of what you say, you have just been manipulated into a system. You have just been coerced into a paradigm. You have just been deceived by, can anybody say, USA, 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 USA. You have just entered into a third-party, polygamous, contractual agreement with the state. You don't believe me? Go ask any social worker. Go ask any guidance counselor. Matter of fact, do better than that. Write your state senator. See what they say. If you think that I'm making this stuff up. Because I tell you, it's very painful. It is very painful when you discover this. And yet and still, you know how many of you are going to go out there and get the marriage license for what they call benefits. Yeah, benefits. I mean, it's just a sad, sad situation. It's a sad thing of how we perceive and how we still do things in this country, and we never check anything out. You know, it's like we are in this matrix, and we just go along with things because that is the way it is, and that is the way it has always been, and we never question the order. And if we do question the order, have you ever noticed any of the state officials, even though they know, a lot of them know, but anytime you want to go and try to get what you call some, you know, maybe good old American favors done for you or something like that, the first thing they do is they tell you, it's the law, it's the law, it's the law, it's the law, it's the law. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Then you tell them to produce the law. You come to find out it ain't no law at all. It's just that it's what they have chose to enforce because that's the way that the things have always been. That's almost in every single aspect of our country. Every single bit of it. All of it is nothing but lies and deception. And you are nothing but a second-class wage earner that the government uses as a tool to be able to extract from you and I illegal taxation without representation, be it traffic fines, speeding tickets, all kind of other stuff that they have made up in order to extract revenue and funds from us. It's just amazing. It's just utterly amazing. I mean, after all, if the president wants some more taxes, all he got to do is include a tax on your cell phone bill, and everybody has to pay it because everybody has cell phones now. You know what I mean? A few pennies out of 360 million people adds up to a lot of vittles, don't it? Anyway, I know it's painful because you've been used. Not only have you been used by this system, you have been used by religion as well. Christianity is a lie. It's just, I said, I'm not talking about you. But if you participate in Christianity, then that makes you a liar as well. Because you're getting ready to get geared up for Christian Thanksgiving, Christian Christmas, Christian Easter, and none of it has anything to do with that Bible at all. So you, in essence, have become a liar yourself. And so don't complain whenever the system brings the hammer down on you since you support it. You know, nobody else's plight is important until something happens to me. Then we want the whole world to turn all their attention towards us. And we want the whole world to understand us, how we're being used and abused. But as long as it's not us and it's somebody else, we really truly don't care. But when it's us, man, we want justice. There's no such thing as justice. You cannot get justice from stolen land, from a land that has literally been stolen from a people. Didn't literally get it by conquest, got it through lies and deception. Anyway, let's get back to the story right here for a second, all right? Attorney James Van says if parents want to say, they must have their child's permission in writing. Wait a minute. Since when did the children become the authority? Now, I guess since he's 18 now. See, we want to play both sides of the fence. All right, now he's 18 and stuff. How in the hell can you get his writing in permission? I guess you better start maybe looking at LegalZoom.com, and maybe I thought I'd put a plug in there for them and see what else you could do in order to be able to find out how much authority that you have over the fruit of your womb, especially when they turn 18. Because if you don't get it, the Gestapo, the powers that be, the government, they own it. A lot of times, we think of this as someone who's getting older, but it really applies to all of us, he said. Whether or not a feeding tube is placed in, whether or not to take off life support could be issues. To avoid wasting precious time and thousands of dollars in legal fees, because, you know, the lawyers got to get paid. You know, some of them get paid an average $200 an hour. And nobody thinks that that is an exorbitant price out there in government. Can you imagine what other profession can you command and demand $200 an hour for me to hear you? I mean, after all, look how much stress I'm under. And look, I mean, after all, it's legalized extortion is what the American justice system is built on. Anyway, let me continue on. A lot of times we think of this as someone who's getting older, but it really applies to all of us, he said. Whether or not a feeding tube is placed in or whether or not to take off life support could be issues. To avoid wasting precious time and thousands of dollars in legal fees, parents need to get need to get 3 forms which need to be notarized, again, by another government agent. A HIPP release form allows healthcare providers to share information with you. A medical power of attorney lets your child name you to make necessary decisions. A durable power of attorney lets your child name you to handle their financial affairs. Stone was able to get what she needed to move her son to rehab for the next phase of his recovery so he could relearn how to walk and talk. Now, 5 years later, her son is still working to rebuild his life. He's 23 years old now. Now, he's able to play the guitar when for 2 years he wasn't able to open his hand, she said. Stone had a victory party for her son when he graduated high school. Now he now takes a college class and will need to have more surgeries to close up his skull with prosthetics. If Forrest, look at this, has stayed in a coma and we hadn't been able to get legal guardianship, then the state would make those decisions, and I can't imagine how terrible that would be, she said. I tell you. And it gets even more strange. You know what? I'll include this article right here because on this article right here, it's got these 3 forms. That's the reason why I keep telling y'all. You know, I know that I sound crazy. You have to understand. There are people out there that love the Matrix. You know, Brother Scott and I, we was up there doing some painting earlier. And Brother Scott brought up a very important point. He asked me, he said, Pastor, have you ever seen, you know, the three series in the Matrix? I said, yeah. He said, you remember the guy that, let me go ahead and sum it up the way I can better understand it, okay, for all of us to understand. There was a guy that had a taste of both sides. And he was eating a steak, and he says, you know what, I know this steak is not real, but I'm going to enjoy this. And I know that you're not real. You know what I mean? But so it wasn't nothing for him to actually sell out the people that he should have had duty and obligation to, because he sold out to the highest bidder, which was the system. And so then, you know, he did it for all his own personal self-advantage, and that's it. He was only thinking about himself. And he didn't care nothing as long as it was all about him. He didn't care about throwing people under the bus. He had no integrity, no honor whatsoever at all. It was all about him. Amazing, huh? See, what happens? That's what happens with many people here in this world, especially if you listen to me. See, what happens is that people are in the world, and then they first experience a swift kick in the gut that they've been lied to. And they come to the knowledge of the truth of what the real truth of the word of the Bible says. And they get excited, and they do it just for a little while until they get offended about something. That don't make no difference. The bottom line is they are offended about something. Now they have knowledge of both sides of the fence, and now they have become worse, or what the Bible says, more evil than what they were when they only knew just about the system itself. And so now they try to use both sides of the fence to what they call their advantage. And they care not the destruction, the lies, the misery, and the pain that they cause on others, because it's all about them. That's what we find ourselves at today in this world right here. You know, I'm gonna leave you a copy of this down below this website, because for those of you who choose to participate in the American system, you got 3 forms you need to fill out, and you need to go ahead and make sure that your children are aware to see if you can get their consent, mom and daddy. Because, I mean, after all, if they're in a coma or something like they can't speak for themselves, the government can make better choices and better decisions than you can, even though you are the one that raised them. But the truth is, you raised the state's child. And the state is going to do everything it can to make sure it maintains jurisdiction and legal authority until you go into their system and do the paperwork just right. Show me your papers. USSA. And then the system and those who are indoctrinated by the system, those who get paid by the system, they hear people like me talking, a pastor like me talk, and they hate me. They hate me with all that's in them. Because, see, they don't want you, the people out there, informed. They'd rather that I shut up. That's what they'd rather do. And then the first thing that system does, I've been in it. You know, the few times I've been in court, you know, I could have something about a business, just in town, best in town restaurant equipment in Nashville, Tennessee. You know, they could turn around and I could buy a brand new piece of equipment, and they turn around and give me a floor model that's got scratches on it and stuff. And then I go to their court system within the confines of what they call the statute of limitations, complying to the law and everything. But the system don't care. They don't care that they sold me used equipment or nothing like that. Because they got a lawyer and they paid for a lawyer, and then it's just me. And even though all facts, everything pointed towards me, guess what? The system still sides with the highest bidder. You know, the people who are in the system. I said all that to say that you can't play games in this system. You got to come out of her. You must come out of her. Because if you don't come out of her, you're going to suffer at the hands of this so-called system. We have a way that we see and we call justice. They have a way that they see and call justice. And you need to be very careful about signing contracts and agreements with anything in the system. I don't care if it's social, political, economics, or religious. Either way it goes, you need to do everything you can to try to function outside the system. Well, the system, the first thing they want to know about me is rather than dealing with the case, they want to know, are you a pastor? You're a pastor of the Church of Israelite Heritage Church of Straightway, right? The Church of Jesus Christ House of Prayer, right? What's that got to do with anything in here? What's that got to do with anything? I mean, what happened to this thing right here called the Constitution, freedom of religion? What's that got to do with anything? Now my belief system has something to do with something? Oh, yeah, it does. It has something to do with everything. Actually, what they're doing is they're looking for jurisdiction. They're looking to see if Pastor Dow is a 501c3 so that they can threaten me by removing tax exempt status. That's why I just go ahead and do like Jesus do, just pay taxes. And believe you me, I'm paying them. But they're looking for jurisdiction so they can put a gag order in my mouth. Now you know the reason why. Certain preachers and teachers can only talk a certain way. You know what you do good to do? You do well if you walk up to your pastor. And if you can't do it, then it's telling you need to get out. Walk up to your pastor, preacher, teacher, elder, whoever it may be. Walk up to them and ask them, are you a 501c3? And if they say, well, since you asked them, you have to be careful semantics of words. Ask them the assembly where we attend. Is it a 501c3? And if they say yes, now you know the reason why your preachers and your teachers and your elders cannot talk the way Pastor Dow does. Because if you are a 501c3, you can't say anything about anything political. You can't say anything about the government. You have to be very careful with your words. In other words, you have a gag order on you. Ask your pastor if Pastor Dow is telling a lie. And see, for your own self. So I don't blame the system for hating me. They should. They should. And many of you hate me because I become your enemy because I told you the truth. If you pick up your Bible, you'll read Galatians 4:16, and you'll find out that's the reason why Pastor Dow is hated more than anything, because I tell you the truth. And a lot of times I'm hated because some of you are doing and living some of the things that I've showed you clearly in the Word is an abomination. It's a flat out transgression. It's iniquity. And because you're a 501c3, what you do is you start going after character assassination. You start slandering, tale-bearing, backbiting. What I'm trying to do is give all you people the reasons why people attack for no reason whatsoever. You need to know how you've been manipulated by certain people in this world. Man, you better take heed to what I'm saying and get free, because he who the Son set free is literally free indeed. The King is coming. I know it's painful. I know it's painful, but it's the truth. And it's the truth straight way. Check me out. I dare you.